Hi, thank you for listening in to my presentation on wind energy today. As most people are aware by now, the United States and many parts of the world have steadily been moving towards renewable energy sources, and one of the main energy sources is wind. But just how fast are we progressing? In the United States, we are currently sitting around 8% of our country's power coming from wind energy. Wind Vision report states that by 2030, that number can jump up to 20%, before even further advancing to 35% by 2050. Before we get into the recent news regarding wind energy, let us first understand a bit of background behind wind energy and how it works. Kind of ironically, wind power actually starts with the sun. In order for the wind to blow, the sun first heats up a section of land along with the air above it. The hot air rises since a given volume of hot air is lighter than the same volume of cooled air. The cooler air then rushes in to fill the void left by the hot air, and this is how a gust of wind is generated. The wind turbine generates electricity by taking advantage of the wind and the aerodynamic force from the rotor blades, which works similar to an airplane wing. When wind flows across the blade, the air pressure on one side of the blade decreases. The difference in air pressure across the two sides of the blade creates both lift and drag. The force of the lift is stronger than the drag, and this causes the rotor to spin at around 30 to 60 revolutions per minute. The rotor connects to the generator that produces a voltage through the wire, and therefore electricity is created. However, not all wind turbines are built the same. There are two main types of wind turbines used in the modern day: the horizontal axis turbine and vertical axis turbines. The horizontal axis turbine is what people usually imagine when they think of wind turbines. They are typically made of 3 blades and operate upwind, with the turbine pivoting on the top of the tower so the blades face the wind. Vertical axis turbines come in varying forms, but the difference lies that, unlike horizontal axis turbines, they are omnidirectional, so that they do not need to point towards the wind to operate. Vertical axis turbines are a lot less common due to the lower energy output when compared to horizontal axis turbines. However, the advantage in using those lie in requiring less space to operate. Next, let us discuss the pros and cons of wind energy. First, wind energy is a green energy source. Harnessing wind energy does not pollute the environment like fossil fuels, coal, and nuclear power do. The only pollution produced in the process is during manufacturing, transportation, and installation of the wind turbines, but the actual electricity production itself does not emit any climate gases. Next, the potential of wind power is incredible. Several independent research teams have reached the same conclusion, that the worldwide potential of wind power is more than 400 terawatts, 20 times more than what the entire human population would need to function. Next, wind is a renewable source of energy. Since wind is naturally occurring, there is no way that we can empty out the energy resources. So, as long as the sun keeps on shining, we will still be able to harness the wind energy on Earth. Next, wind power is also space efficient. The largest wind turbines are capable of generating enough electricity to meet the energy demands of 600 average US households. Although wind turbines can't be placed too close to each other, the land in between them can still be used for other things. Wind power is also cost effective, costing only between 2 to 6 cents per kilowatt hour, making it one of the lowest priced energy sources available today. And lastly, wind power also helps to create jobs. In 2016, the US wind sector employed more than 100,000 workers, and it is estimated that by 2050, the number will go up to 600,000. Next, let us look into the cons of wind power. Depending on how strong and consistent the winds at the wind site are, the wind farm might not be cost competitive when pitted against fossil fuels. Even though the cost of wind power has decreased dramatically in the past 10 years, the technology still requires a higher initial capital than fossil fuel generators. Next, the turbine blades may also be harmful to the wildlife. Birds, bats, and other flying creatures have a slim chance of surviving when getting hit by a rotating wind turbine blade. Next, the wind is also unpredictable, and the availability of wind power is not consistent. Wind energy is therefore not well suited as a base load energy source. If we had more cost-effective ways of storing wind energy, then this would not be a problem. Lastly, turbines might also cause noise and aesthetic pollution. Although wind power plants have relatively little impact on the environment compared to conventional power plants, concerns exist over the noise produced by the turbine blades and visual impacts to the landscape. Now, let us look at what the future holds for wind energy. The design for wind turbines are constantly changing and improving. Currently, scientists at DOE's National Renewable Energy Laboratory and Sandia National Laboratories are searching for ways to maximize the advantage of large-scale rotors and their potential for increased energy generation. Simply put, they have found that bigger does equate to better when it comes to wind turbines. Having bigger blades can sweep larger areas and access faster winds available at higher heights above the ground. Capturing more of the wind and tapping into better wind resources help drive down the cost of energy. Rotor growth may also increase capacity factors, or the amount of power a turbine outputs on average over the course of a year. However, with bigger turbines comes the problem of more weight, which becomes a major problem when transporting and manufacturing. In order to combat this problem, solutions are being looked into by segmenting the blade into components, new innovative transportation means, and also on-site manufacturing methods. The team is also currently exploring 4 different concepts on improving the design of wind turbines, being a turbine facing downwind rather than the conventional upwind, blades that change shape similar to an airplane's wing during takeoff and landing, a 4 to 5 blade design with thinner, lighter blades, and an extremely lightweight blade design involving a manufacturing technique similar to 3D printing, with the insides of the blade being filled with a type of rigid foam. Next, let us look at how wind power will change in the next few years, through looking at the trends from the last 2 decades. In the United States, the amount of wind energy generated is steadily increasing each year. However, it is mostly the internal portion of the United States that is accounting for this production, even though other states and regions are developing their wind power sources too. This region consists of the highest winds, and therefore has the highest production potential, so we can expect this trend to be continued in the next couple of years. Next, the nameplate capacity of a wind turbine is its maximum output rating, or how much power it can produce when operating at full capacity. The figure illustrates how the market is moving towards larger capacity turbines. The smallest turbine deployed in a utility-scale wind plant in 2018 had a nameplate capacity of 1.5 megawatts. The average nameplate capacity has also been steadily increasing, reaching 1.4 megawatts in 2018. As previously mentioned, the wind turbines are more effective the larger they are. It isn't surprising that the trend of larger turbine components is emerging. The figure plots the average wind turbine nameplate capacity, rotor diameter, and hub height over the last 20 years. Growth in these 3 areas highlight the technological advancement in land-based wind turbines. Lastly, I felt that it was appropriate to end off the presentation looking even further into the future, to highlight the long-term impact wind energy will have. First, wind energy is affordable. As wind generation agreements typically provide a 20-year fixed pricing, the electric utility sector is anticipated to be less sensitive to volatility in natural gas and coal fuel pricing. By reducing national vulnerability to price spikes and supply disruptions with long-term pricing, wind is anticipated to save consumers $280 billion by 2050. Next, wind energy reduces air pollution emissions. In 2013, operating wind energy capacity avoided the emissions of over 250 metric tons of air pollutants, which include sulfur dioxide, nitric oxide, nitrogen dioxide, and other particulate matter. By 2050, wind energy could avoid the emissions of 2.3 gigatons of greenhouse gases. Lastly, wind energy helps to preserve water resources. By 2050, wind energy can save 260 billion gallons of water, the equivalent of roughly 400,000 Olympic-sized swimming pools that would have been used by the electric power sector. Thank you guys again for listening to my presentation on wind energy. I hope it was as informative for my audience as it was for me making it. Have a great day.